This is the last time that we're getting together before, that CTC is getting together before Shavuos. And that means that, and I'm sure that's what's been going on in the room, by some of you, if not all of you, that means that it's time to start thinking about the momentous holiday that's approaching. It's always an incredible pleasure to be here and to see what's going to have the opportunity to glimpse at the unbelievable things that are going on here. And I want to share a thought about the upcoming holiday through the eyes of this week's parsha, because it's Parshas Bamidbar. The portion of Bamidbar always comes before Shavuos. It's one of those steady things that you can depend on in the Jewish calendar, is that you're going to have Bamidbar and Shavuos. And therefore there's a lesson there, there's a message there, that you can find messages about Shavuos in Parshas Bamidbar. And one of the things that the Jewish people were told in Parshas Bamidbar was to have flags. Ish al digloi, that each shevet, each tribe should have a flag. The flags were very specific in their colors and their designs, and they represented certain concepts or attributes of each shevet. Now when the Jewish people were told to have flags, they weren't told to have flags, they were told that they can have flags, because they were hoping for this. The Medrash tells us that when the Jewish people stood by Mount Sinai, they suddenly were gripped by a desire for flags. Hisavu l'degalim, they had a desire for flags. And you have to ask yourself, a flag is beautiful, but what was the desire for flags? And the Medrash says that they looked up when they were receiving the Torah, and they saw that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem, came down on top of the mountain. Vayered Hashem, Hashem came down on top of the mountain, and with him, the Asa Mei Rivavais Kodesh, and with him were many thousands of malachim, of angels, that came with him to behold the unbelievable sight of the giving of the Torah. And he saw that the Jewish people saw that the angels had flags. And when they saw that the angels had flags, you ever see something that someone has, you're like, I just have to have that. When they saw the angels had flags, they just had to have it. And again, you have to ask yourself, what was it about these flags that was so gripping, it was so hypnotic, that they had to have it? It's one of the great Hasidic masters, the Shemi Shmuel. He says, let me tell you what a flag is and what it meant in the days of early warfare. When two countries or armies would face each other in battle, each one would raise a flag. It wasn't just as a way of showing my colors or advertising for my country. It was a way of helping the soldiers orient themselves on the battlefield. A battlefield is loud and confusing and a lot messier than we think it is. And when the soldiers are running and evading arrows and spears, and it's getting dark and they're hiding and they're spinning around and they're hitting the ground, and sometimes you can just lose sight of which direction is home and which direction is the enemy. And that is not a good mistake to make. To not know where home is and not know where the enemy is. You can head for shelter straight into the enemy camp. So armies would raise a flag, and the flag would serve two purposes. It would keep me oriented. I always have the corner of my eye, I'm seeing where my flag is. That's purpose number one. Purpose number two, if I get lost, if I get turned around, if I lose my bearings, if I'm injured, God forbid, I can look for my flag. It's something I can look for that's above the field, and I can find my way home. Angels always know where they are. They don't have a Yetzer Hara. They don't have the physical desires that we have. And they always know exactly what their mission is. They always have their flag in focus. And when the Jewish people saw that the angels have flags, they desired flags as well. And they davened to Hashem. And they said, Hashem, we know that we can get lost sometimes. And we know that sometimes we can lose our way. But flags serve two purposes. It helps a person not get lost, And if a person gets lost, it helps them find their way home. Give us flags. Give us that emotional, spiritual strength that no matter what we go through as a people or what we go through as individuals, we should always be able to find our way home. We should always have that Jewish heart and that Jewish soul that can sense what's right, that can sense where I belong, the life that I should be leading, the mitzvahs that I should do, the community I should be a part of. I recently shared with the ladies share a story that I read. In history, there are in the Jewish world and in the secular world, people along the pages of history that were known for having unique and effective leadership qualities. And one of those people I had never heard of before, his name was Ernest Shackleton. Ernest Shackleton was a polar explorer, and he led an expedition to cross the Antarctic, I think, in 1914, from 1914 through 1916. He had a ship that he acquired, and he named it the Endurance. And it was a very, very strong ship. It was maybe the strongest ship that existed at that time to be able to go through the ice and the different flows of ice that can get in the way of a ship that's traveling in that area. And he started on his journey. And there were a lot of different points of that journey that this what to learn from. But the excitement was that at some point in the journey, the ice closed in around the ship, and they were stuck on the ice. And they stayed that way for months, just stuck on the ice. And at some point, they started to hear horrific noises coming from the ship. The ice, because of the weather patterns and the temperature and the different things that were going on, the currents, the ice began to squeeze the ship. And it sounded like people screaming in pain. The wood bending and cracking. And at some point, the entire ship was ripped to pieces. And he was stuck literally on an ice floe. Basically, it's a flat iceberg. And they had to set up camp on the ice. They didn't know where they were the next morning. They're traveling. They don't know which direction they're going. They're really in the middle of nowhere. And they had to and they survived. They eventually went to a place called Elephant Island, where they were able to find some refuge, and then some of them traveled hundreds of miles on a small little boat in the ocean to find a whaling station, and they were able to get help, and they were saved. He came home, he left with 28 men, he came home with 28 men 2 years later, living on nothing, without a ship, in the middle of nowhere. One of the things that struck me is that in the middle of that journey, they decided they were going to try to take the sleds and the dogs that they had and try to go over the ice toward land. And he gathered his men together, and he said, we have a lot of stuff on this boat, and you came with a lot of possessions, books, mementos, souvenirs, food, but we are not going to make it if we travel heavy. So everybody has to be very strict with themselves. And he gave certain criteria, how many clothing, socks, and shirts and hats, and how much clothing each person can have, how much weight each person can carry. Interestingly, and Rabbi Levine, you'll appreciate this, the one exception he made was for a musical instrument. He made it. There's also leadership. There's also a certain understanding. But everyone's gathered around, and he does as a true leader should. He says, okay, I'm first. And he starts putting on the ground jewelry, and his own ring, coins, gold coins. He takes a Bible that he was given by the Queen of England that had an inscription in the flyleaf to him. He rips out the inscription and he puts the Bible down. His most prized possessions. And of course, when you have that kind of example, everyone followed suit. And I was very moved by that description of a person standing there on the ice, in the middle of nowhere, asking himself, what is truly, truly, truly important to me? What can I leave behind that I will never see again? And what can I truly not live without? And it got me thinking about our journey and our mission, and how we are headed also towards a destination. And the world confuses us and distracts us with all kinds of things that the world tells us is important. But when we hit a milestone, like a holiday of Shavuos, which is the holiday that we receive the Torah, I believe it's a time for us to stand around the ice together and to ask ourselves, what is truly, truly, truly important to us? What do we need to take with us? The kindness that we need to have to other people, the relationship with Hashem, the relationship with our community, our connection to Torah, like this type of a gathering. These are the things that we take with us. Those are the things that we carry in our knapsack in the journey ahead. So I would like to wish everyone a very, very happy and healthy and accomplishing holiday, and that we should be able to, together, I think we accomplish a lot together as a community. That together we should be able to stay focused on our truly important goals, to strip away all the extraneous, unimportant stuff, and to be able to be focused on our true goal of Bein Adam L'Makayim, our relationship with Hashem, and Bein Adam L'Chaveroi, our relationships with each other. Thank you very much for the opportunity.